Competitive gaming draws over 1 billion viewers globally, filling stadiums to capacity for international events. Yet in early 2026, the International Olympic Committee suspended its Esports Commission entirely, halting any plans to integrate these massive audiences into the Olympic fold. Former IOC President Thomas Bach had originally championed a digital expansion strategy, attempting to capture the lucrative esports demographic. That strategy fractured when the inaugural Olympic esports event, scheduled for 2025 in Saudi Arabia, was delayed and ultimately canceled due to irreconcilable operational friction. Upon taking over in 2025, new IOC President Kirsty Coventry immediately pivoted the organization toward a traditionalist, fiscally conservative approach. Facing severe cost overruns for the upcoming Brisbane 2032 Games, the committee opted to streamline its portfolio, cutting digital experimentation to protect core athletic events. The IOC's retreat reveals an underlying mechanical issue. Traditional sporting institutions and competitive gaming ecosystems possess incompatible structural architectures. The rules of soccer or tennis belong to the public domain. Anyone can organize a match without securing a commercial license for the concept of a ball or a net. Because the game mechanics are public, independent federations like FIFA can step in to impartially govern the sport, set standardized rules, and manage international tribunals. Competitive gaming operates on a strict axiom. The playing field, the equipment, and the rules themselves are entirely owned as private intellectual property. This creates a publisher monopoly. Companies like Riot Games or Activision hold absolute dictatorial authority over how, when, and by whom their games are played. Instead of an open hierarchy, the publisher sits centered in a closed hub-and-spoke model. The ecosystem is rigidly enclosed by copyright law, walling off third-party governance. Independent bodies cannot establish tournaments or broadcast events unless they submit entirely to the publisher's commercial terms. By locking out independent regulatory federations, the private IP monopoly has engineered an institutional void, preventing the industry from developing the stabilizing structures found in mature sports. Without independent federations, competitors lack access to universal athlete unions, standardized contracts, or basic employment protections. E-athletes are routinely classified as independent contractors. They operate within a highly volatile gig economy, where a single game update can instantly eliminate their competitive viability. Staying viable requires extreme physiological exertion. Top-tier competitors execute between 500 and 600 actions per minute, translating to roughly 10 moves every second. To maintain that execution rate, professionals endure grueling practice schedules, remaining seated at their stations for up to 10 hours a day. This extreme sedentary behavior carries severe biological consequences, including the severe risk of deep vein thrombosis, a potentially fatal condition caused by blood clotting and pooling in the lower extremities. The neurological toll is equally severe. Prolonged exposure to LED blue light disrupts the body's natural circadian rhythms and suppresses melatonin synthesis, leading to chronic sleep deprivation. The publisher-centric model extracts maximum biological performance from its players, yet completely lacks the institutional health safety nets that traditional sports organizations are required to provide. The New York Institute of Technology published a comprehensive clinical study assessing the physical degradation of collegiate competitors. Researchers evaluated e-athletes from major universities who maintained practice regimens of up to 10 hours daily. This chart outlines specific pain pathologies. More than half the respondents, 41%, experienced persistent back and neck pain, and over a third developed debilitating pain in their wrists and hands. Despite these widespread injuries, the data reveals a massive medical blind spot. Only 2% of the injured players ever sought professional medical attention. Current sports medicine frameworks are not designed to recognize or treat these specific digital pathologies. The modern e-athlete requires a distinct medical and legal reclassification to ensure baseline occupational safety. Beyond physical health, the institutional void compromises corporate accountability. Without an independent governing body, enforcing internal operational standards falls entirely on the publishers themselves. The industry projects a strong outward commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, generating a 210% increase in DEI impact hubs since 2020. Yet the demographic reality contradicts the marketing. Across professional rosters, women constitute only 6.3% of the player base. Compliance is largely hollow. While 73% of organizations drafted formal DEI policies, only 41% attach measurable goals. The consequence is measurable exclusion. Survey data shows 81% of esports events completely lack basic accessibility features for disabled attendees. When an industry operates without an independent federation, there is zero regulatory leverage to punish noncompliance or enforce accessibility standards. Without centralized external pressure to force standardization, publisher-led equity and inclusion policies exist strictly as performative gestures on paper. The entirely publisher-controlled model of governance has reached its absolute legal limit. Because the industry failed to construct its own internal regulatory architecture, external state governments and federal agencies are now stepping in to force compliance. In 2023, the United States Department of Justice filed a major antitrust lawsuit against Activision Blizzard, targeting its player compensation structures. Applying the traditional frameworks of the Sherman Act to a digital video game league, the DOJ successfully dismantled publisher-controlled salary caps, prohibiting the company from artificially suppressing player wages. Internationally, courts are attacking the gig economy model. A 2024 French tribunal ruling legally stripped away a professional player's independent contractor status, explicitly reclassifying them as a formal employee entitled to mandatory labor protections. Concurrently, the European Union implemented the Digital Services Act, subjecting gaming platforms to strict legal mandates regarding content moderation and algorithmic transparency. Governments and courts are actively piercing the publisher IP monopoly. They have established a clear legal precedent. Commercial ownership of a game does not grant an organization immunity from labor and antitrust law. The core conflict is now evident. The absolute publisher monopoly built a billion-dollar entertainment product, but failed entirely to build a functioning, equitable sport. Esports is currently undergoing a painful but necessary transition, evolving from unregulated commercial entertainment into a heavily regulated hybrid sport. This hybrid model requires compromise. Publishers will retain their commercial intellectual property rights, but they must surrender unilateral operational control to independent external oversight. The foundation of this new oversight relies on three distinct pillars: unionized labor, verified clinical health standards, and legally enforceable equity. The survival and future scale of competitive gaming no longer depends on software updates or broadcast viewership. It relies entirely on building the critical, independent institutions that the publishers created the need for, but can no longer govern alone.